The envelope sat on the kitchen table like a bomb waiting to explode. My wife of 5 years, freshly graduated with her master's degree in business administration, the degree I'd worked 3 jobs to help pay for, had just handed me divorce papers with the same casual energy someone might use to pass the salt. I picked up the papers, scanned through the yellow sticky notes marking where I needed to sign, and reached for the pen she'd thoughtfully placed next to them. "That's it?" Elena asked, her perfectly manicured eyebrows raised in surprise. "You're not even going to ask why?" I looked up at her then, really looked at her for the first time in months. She was wearing the designer suit I'd bought her for graduation last week, the one that cost more than I made in 2 weeks at my construction job. Her hair was styled differently, more sophisticated, more expensive. She looked like success personified, and I looked like exactly what I was, the husband who'd served his purpose and was no longer needed. "Should I ask why?" I said calmly, signing the first page. "Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you've already made every decision that matters." My name is Nathan Cross. I'm 32 years old now, but this story starts when I was 27, working as a construction foreman and absolutely convinced I'd found the love of my life. Elena Martinez was a server at the diner near my work site, beautiful and ambitious with dreams bigger than our small Pennsylvania town could contain. When she told me she wanted to go back to school to get her bachelor's degree, then her master's, I didn't hesitate. I'd support her, work extra shifts, do whatever it took to help her achieve her dreams. That was what you did when you loved someone, right? You sacrificed. You built them up. You believed in their potential even when they stopped believing in yours. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt undervalued or taken for granted, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts and smash that like button. Your support helps me bring you more real stories about real people navigating life's hardest moments. Now, let's get back to the moment my life changed forever. Elena had come home from her graduation ceremony still wearing her cap and gown, diploma in hand, and the first words out of her mouth weren't "thank you" or "I couldn't have done this without you." They were, "We need to talk." I'd been sitting on our worn couch in our tiny 2-bedroom apartment, the same apartment we'd lived in for 5 years because every spare dollar went toward Elena's tuition, textbooks, and living expenses while she attended school full-time. I'd picked up a 3rd job doing weekend landscaping just to cover the gap when her student loans weren't enough. I'd eaten ramen for dinner more nights than I could count so she could have proper meals to fuel her studies. I'd watched her stress over papers and exams, held her when she cried about the pressure, reassured her that it would all be worth it someday. And now, apparently, someday had arrived, and I wasn't part of the picture. The divorce papers were comprehensive, I'd give her that. She must have been planning this for months, maybe longer. Every asset we'd accumulated together, which wasn't much, was neatly divided. She'd even calculated what portion of the furniture she thought was fair, listing items by estimated value. The apartment lease was in both our names, but she wanted me out within 30 days. She'd keep the car we'd bought together 2 years ago because she needed it for her new job. The job she'd landed at a consulting firm in Philadelphia making 6 figures. The job she'd gotten through networking at her graduate program, the program I'd funded. "I've outgrown this relationship," Elena said, watching me sign page after page without protest. "We're in different places now. I need someone who can match my ambition, someone who's going somewhere in life." I finished signing the last page and slid the papers across the coffee table to her. "All set," I said, standing up. "I'll start packing tonight." Elena's perfectly composed expression cracked slightly. She'd been expecting a fight, tears, begging, something. Instead, she got efficiency. "Nathan, you're really not going to say anything after everything?" I grabbed my work jacket from the back of the chair. "What do you want me to say, Elena? That I'm surprised? I'm not. You've been pulling away for months, coming home later, being secretive with your phone, talking about your new friends from school like they're a different species than me. You got what you needed from me, and now you're moving on. I understand how transactions work." Her face flushed. "That's not fair. It wasn't a transaction." "Wasn't it?" I looked around our apartment. 5 years, Elena. I worked myself into the ground for 5 years so you could chase your dreams. I never once asked you to contribute more financially. I never complained when you couldn't work because of your class schedule. I just supported you because I loved you and believed in you. I know that, she said quietly. But Nathan, you have to understand. I've changed. I've grown. The person I am now needs different things than the person I was when we got married. Fair enough, I said. Then I guess it's good we're doing this now instead of wasting any more of your valuable time. I walked toward our bedroom to start packing, but stopped at the doorway and turned back. Just out of curiosity, how long have you been planning this? When did you decide I wasn't worth keeping around? Elena had the decency to look uncomfortable. It's not like that. Then what's it like? Help me understand the timeline here. Was it after you got accepted into the graduate program? After your first semester? Or was it when you met him? Her eyes went wide. What are you talking about? Come on, Elena, I'm not stupid. The late study sessions, the new perfume, the way you suddenly started caring about designer labels. There's someone else. Has been for a while, I'm guessing. She didn't deny it. Just looked away, confirming everything I'd suspected but hadn't wanted to believe. His name is Grant, she said finally. He's in my cohort. We're just friends right now. But yes, there's potential there. He's ambitious like me. He understands the professional world I'm entering. Does Grant know he's dating a married woman? We're not dating, not yet. I wanted to handle this properly first. I laughed, a bitter sound that surprised me. How considerate. You waited until after graduation to blow up our marriage. Should I appreciate the timing? Nathan, don't be like this. Like what? Honest? You're right, Elena. That's never been your strong suit. I went into the bedroom and started pulling clothes from the closet. Elena followed me, hovering in the doorway. What are you doing? You wanted me out in 30 days. I figure why wait? I'll be gone by tomorrow night. You don't have anywhere to go. I'll figure it out. I always do. That's what people like me do, Elena. We figure things out. We adapt. We survive. Over the next 24 hours, I worked with the kind of focused intensity that had made me a successful foreman. I packed my entire life into boxes, separating my belongings from Elena's with surgical precision. Clothes, books, tools, the few personal items that actually mattered to me. Everything else, the furniture we'd bought together, the kitchen supplies, the decorations, I left for her. Let her have the physical remnants of our marriage. I didn't need reminders. I called my older brother Jackson, who lived 2 hours away in Ohio. He was shocked when I explained the situation, offered to drive down immediately and help me move. I told him I'd handle the packing and would head his way tomorrow. By the time Elena came home from what I assumed was a celebration dinner with her new professional circle, my truck was loaded with everything I owned. She pulled into the parking lot just as I was securing the last box with a bungee cord. "You're really leaving tonight?" she asked, getting out of her car. The satisfaction in her voice was barely concealed. No point dragging this out. I climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. Elena stood there in her expensive suit, looking almost disappointed that there wouldn't be more drama, more emotion to validate whatever story she'd been telling herself about why our marriage ended. "Nathan," she called as I started to back out. "What?" "I hope you find what you're looking for." I looked at her one last time. I already had what I was looking for, Elena. You just convinced me it wasn't real. As I drove away, I saw her in my rearview mirror. She was laughing, actually laughing, while texting on her phone, probably telling Grant the good news. The husband was officially out of the picture. I didn't cry, didn't rage, just drove north, toward Ohio with my entire life packed in the bed of a 15-year-old pickup truck and a strange sense of freedom settling over me like a warm blanket. Elena thought she'd won. She probably celebrated with Grant that night, toasted her liberation from the construction worker who'd served his purpose. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have known, was that she'd just set me free to become someone she'd never imagined possible. The next 10 years of my life would prove that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success. Jackson's house in Cleveland was everything mine wasn't. Stable, established, comfortable. He and his wife Michelle had built a good life with their 2 kids in a suburban neighborhood where people mowed their lawns on Saturdays and knew their neighbors' names. When I pulled up at midnight with a truck full of boxes and a failed marriage, Jackson was already waiting on the front porch with a beer. "You look like hell," he said, handing me the bottle. "Feel worse," I admitted, dropping into the porch chair next to him. "Want to talk about it?" I took a long drink. "Not really. Just want to figure out what comes next. Fair enough. Guest room's yours as long as you need it. Michelle's already got it set up. That's the thing about good family. They don't make you explain or justify or perform grief for their benefit. They just show up. For the first week, I worked my construction jobs remotely, taking on projects in the Cleveland area that Jackson helped me find through his network. At night, I'd sit in the guest room with my laptop, researching, planning, thinking about what Elena had said. "You're not going anywhere in life." The words stung because part of me worried they were true. I was 27, divorced, living in my brother's guest room with nothing to show for 5 years of marriage except a truck full of secondhand furniture and a bank account that was basically empty. But another part of me, a part I hadn't accessed in years because I'd been too busy supporting someone else's dreams, started to wake up. I'd been good at construction, really good. Started as a laborer at 19, worked my way up to foreman by 24. I understood buildings from the foundation up, could read blueprints like sheet music, knew how to manage crews and timelines and budgets. What if instead of working for someone else, I worked for myself? The idea was crazy. Starting a construction company required capital I didn't have, licenses I'd need to obtain, insurance costs that seemed impossible, but I couldn't shake the thought. At dinner one night, about 3 weeks into my stay, I mentioned it to Jackson. "I've been thinking about starting my own company," I said, pushing food around my plate. "General contracting, mostly residential renovation work." Jackson exchanged a look with Michelle. "What would you need to get started?" "More than I have. Licenses, insurance, a truck that's not held together by prayers and duct tape, tools, initial operating capital, probably looking at 30 to 40,000 to do it right." "I've got 25,000 in savings," Jackson said. "It's yours if you want it." I nearly choked on my water. "Jackson, I can't take your savings." "You're not taking it. I'm investing it. You'll pay me back with interest once you're profitable. And you will be profitable because you're the hardest working person I know." Michelle nodded. "We believe in you, Nathan. We've watched you sacrifice everything for Elena's dreams. Time to build your own." 2 months later, Cross Construction LLC officially existed. I'd passed the licensing exams, secured insurance, bought a reliable truck, and assembled a basic toolkit that would let me handle most residential renovation projects. The business started small. Kitchen remodels, bathroom renovations, deck construction. I bid conservatively, delivered ahead of schedule, and treated every client's home like it was my own. Word spread. One satisfied customer told another, who told another. Within 6 months, I had more work than I could handle alone. I hired my first employee, then a second, then a third. By the end of the first year, Cross Construction had completed 47 projects with a 100% satisfaction rate. I paid Jackson back his investment with 20% interest. He tried to refuse the extra money, but I insisted. The loan had saved my life. By year 2, I'd moved out of Jackson's guest room and into a small apartment of my own. Nothing fancy, but it was mine, earned with my own hands and my own vision. The company was growing steadily. I'd developed a reputation for quality work and honest dealing, 2 things that were apparently rare enough in the construction industry to set me apart. Year 3 brought the turning point. A real estate developer named Patricia Brennan hired me to renovate a historic building she'd purchased downtown. It was a massive project, well beyond anything I'd tackled before. Patricia took a chance on me based on my reputation, and I didn't let her down. The renovation came in under budget and ahead of schedule. Patricia was so impressed she introduced me to her network of investors and developers. Suddenly, Cross Construction was handling commercial projects, multi-unit renovations, new construction. I had to hire a project manager, an office administrator, and grow my crew to 15 people. By year 4, I'd saved enough to make a down payment on a small office building. Cross Construction now had a permanent home base, a shop for tools and materials, and a conference room where I could meet with clients. The kid who'd lived on ramen so his wife could attend business school was now running a successful business of his own. Year 5 was the expansion year. I opened a second location in Pittsburgh, hired a general manager to run daily operations so I could focus on strategy and growth. Cross Construction completed its first $1 million project, a full-gut renovation of a boutique hotel. I bought a house, a real house, in a good neighborhood. Nothing ostentatious, but solid, well-built. with a workshop in the garage where I could still work with my hands when I needed to remember where I'd come from. By year 6, the company was generating multiple millions in annual revenue. I'd been featured in regional business publications, invited to speak at trade conferences, courted by larger firms interested in acquisition. I always declined the acquisition offers. Cross Construction was mine, built from nothing with sweat and determination, and the freedom that came from having nothing left to lose. Years 7, 8, and 9 brought continued growth. More locations, bigger projects, a reputation that extended beyond Pennsylvania and Ohio. I hired a full executive team, implemented systems and processes that would let the business scale efficiently. I also started giving back, creating a scholarship fund for trade school students, partnering with workforce development programs to offer apprenticeships. If I could help other people avoid the financial desperation I'd experienced, I would. By year 10, Cross Construction had become one of the most respected contracting firms in the region. We employed over 200 people across 5 locations, handled projects ranging from residential renovations to major commercial developments. The business was valued at north of $20 million. And I'd done it all without ever once reaching out to Elena. Not to gloat, not to prove anything, not even to let her know I'd survived. I'd simply erased her from my life as completely as she'd tried to erase me from hers. Then one morning in May, exactly 10 years and 3 months after I'd driven away from that apartment, my phone started blowing up. 169 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. But when I saw the voicemails, I knew exactly who it was. Elena had found me. And based on the desperation in her voice, her life hadn't turned out quite the way she'd planned. The first voicemail was almost professional. "Nathan, it's Elena. I know it's been a long time, but I really need to talk to you. Please call me back when you get this." The second was less composed. "Nathan, please. I've been trying to reach you for days. It's important. We need to talk about something." By the 15th, the desperation was unmistakable. "Nathan, I know you're getting these messages. Please, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. 5 minutes of your time." I sat in my office, the corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Cleveland, and listened to message after message. 10 years of radio silence, and now she wanted 5 minutes of my time. My assistant, Rebecca, knocked on my door. "Mr. Cross, you have your 2 o'clock meeting in 10 minutes. "Cancel it," I said. "Actually, cancel everything for the rest of the day." Rebecca's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. In 3 years of working for me, I'd never canceled a full afternoon of meetings. "Is everything okay?" "Just need to handle something personal." After she left, I pulled up my laptop and did what I probably should have done years ago. I Googled Elena Martinez. The results were illuminating. She'd married Grant Holloway 8 years ago, shortly after our divorce was finalized. They'd lived in Philadelphia for a while, then moved to New York. Elena had worked for several consulting firms, but her LinkedIn showed gaps in employment. Her most recent position had ended 2 years ago. Grant's profile was even more interesting. He'd been a rising star at his firm, promoted quickly, made partner young. Then, 3 years ago, nothing. His company profile was gone, replaced by a single line, "No longer with the firm." I dug deeper, found news articles. Grant Holloway had been fired for embezzlement. He'd been running a scheme where he inflated client billing, then pocketed the difference. The firm had discovered it during a routine audit, fired him immediately, and sued for damages. Criminal charges had been filed but apparently settled with restitution payments and probation. Elena's golden boy had turned out to be a criminal. I called the number she'd been messaging from. She answered on the first ring. "Nathan?" "Elena." Silence stretched between us. "I wasn't sure you'd call back," she said finally. I wasn't sure I would either, but 169 calls seemed excessive enough to warrant a response. "Can we meet in person? I'm in Cleveland." "You're here?" "I drove up yesterday. I've been sitting outside your office building since this morning." I looked out my window at the parking lot below. Sure enough, there was a beat-up Toyota parked near the entrance. I could just make out a figure in the driver's seat. "How did you find me?" "Google. You're apparently pretty successful now. Cross Construction is everywhere online." "And that's why you're here? Because I'm successful?" "No," she said quickly. "That's not why I'm here at all. Nathan, please. Just give me 30 minutes. There are things you need to know, things I need to explain." Against my better judgment, I agreed. "There's a coffee shop 2 blocks north of here, Riverside Cafe. Meet me there in 20 minutes. I hung up before she could respond. Rebecca buzzed me. Your 3 Aqua is still holding. I thought I told you to cancel everything. You did, but this is Mrs. Cross on line 2. She says it's important. Mrs. Cross, my mother. I picked up the line. Hey, Mom. Nathan, sweetheart. I heard from Jackson that your ex-wife has been trying to reach you. News traveled fast in my family. She's in Cleveland. I'm meeting her for coffee in a few minutes. Are you sure that's wise? Probably not. But I'm curious what's so important that she'd drive 3 hours and stake out my office. Be careful, Nathan. People who hurt us once often try to do it again. I know, Mom, but I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. She can't hurt me anymore. I hoped that was true. The Riverside Cafe was busy with the afternoon crowd. Young professionals grabbing coffee between meetings, students studying at corner tables. I grabbed a booth in the back where we'd have some privacy. Elena walked in 10 minutes later, and I almost didn't recognize her. The polished, sophisticated woman who'd handed me divorce papers had been replaced by someone who looked tired, worn down. Her designer suit was gone, replaced by jeans and a sweater that had seen better days. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. No jewelry. She looked like someone who'd been through a war and lost. She spotted me and walked over slowly, like she was approaching something dangerous. Nathan, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. Thanks for meeting me. You drove 3 hours and called me 169 times. Figured I should at least hear what's so important. A waitress came by, and Elena ordered coffee, black. When it arrived, she wrapped both hands around the mug like she was trying to absorb its warmth. You look good, she said finally. Success suits you. I work hard, it pays off. I saw the articles online. Cross construction. 5 locations. Hundreds of employees. You've built something amazing. What do you want, Elena? She flinched at my directness. I wanted to apologize. Apologize? For everything. For how I treated you. For taking you for granted. For throwing away our marriage like it meant nothing. I was wrong, Nathan. About everything. I leaned back in the booth, studying her. What happened? Grant turned out to be less perfect than advertised? Her eyes filled with tears. Grant's a thief. He embezzled money from his firm, got fired, got sued, almost went to prison. We lost everything paying his legal fees and restitution. Our apartment, our savings, everything. I had to file for bankruptcy. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Actually, yes. I don't wish that kind of trouble on anyone, even you. Elena wiped her eyes. I deserve it. I deserve all of it. I threw away a good man who loved me for someone who seemed shinier, more successful. Turns out the shiny exterior was hiding rot underneath. Why are you here, Elena? You didn't drive to Cleveland just to apologize. She took a deep breath. I need help. Financial help. Grant and I are divorced now. I'm living with my mother in a 1-bedroom apartment in Philadelphia. I can't find work because of the bankruptcy. I'm drowning in debt. I saw how successful you'd become, and I thought maybe you'd be willing to help me get back on my feet. There it was. The real reason for 169 phone calls. Elena hadn't tracked me down to apologize or make amends. She'd tracked me down because she needed money, and I was the only person she knew who had any. Let me make sure I understand, I said slowly. You want me, the man you divorced because I wasn't ambitious enough, wasn't going anywhere in life, to give you money so you can recover from the financial disaster your ambitious husband created. I know how it sounds. Do you? Because it sounds like you're using me again. 10 years ago, you used me to pay for your education. Now you want to use me to bail you out of debt. The only difference is you're asking directly this time instead of pretending we're in a partnership. Nathan, please. I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But I'm desperate. I've been applying for jobs for 2 years with nothing. Nobody wants to hire someone with my kind of financial history. I'm about to lose my car. I can't afford food some weeks. I'm not asking for much, just enough to get stable again. I finished my coffee, then looked at Elena. Really looked at her. The woman who'd broken my heart, who'd laughed as I drove away with my life in boxes, who'd thought I'd never amount to anything. No, I said simply. Her face crumpled. What? I said no. I'm not giving you money. But Nathan, I'm desperate. I have nowhere else to turn. Then I guess you'll have to figure it out. The same way I figured it out when you left me with nothing. That's not fair. You chose to support me through school. And you chose to leave me the second you didn't need me anymore. You chose to laugh when I drove away. You chose to prioritize your ambitious boyfriend over your loyal husband. Actions have consequences, Elena. You're learning that now. She was crying openly now. I made a mistake. One mistake. No. You made a series of choices. All of them selfish. All of them cruel. And now you want me to rescue you from the consequences. Why would I do that? Because you loved me once. Because we were married. Because maybe you still care. I stood up, pulled out my wallet, and left $20 on the table for her coffee and tip. I did love you once. That's true, but the woman I loved didn't actually exist. She was a fiction I created because I wanted to believe in something. The real you, the you sitting here asking me for money after a decade of silence, that person I never loved because I never really knew her. Nathan, please. You know what the funny thing is? If you'd called me 10 years ago, after I'd started the business, but before I'd really made it, I probably would have helped you. Because that's who I was. Someone who gave everything to the people he loved. But you waited until I'd become successful, until I'd proven you wrong about me, and then you showed up with your hand out. That tells me you haven't changed at all. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Elena, I hope you figure things out. I really do. Not because I care about you specifically, but because I don't wish suffering on anyone. But I'm not your solution. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not the consolation prize you get to claim when your first choice doesn't work out. I'm someone who built a life without you, and I'm going to keep living that life without you. You've become cruel, she said bitterly. No, I've become honest. There's a difference. I left her sitting in that booth, crying into her coffee, and walked back to my office. Rebecca looked up when I came in. How did it go? About like I expected. Hold my calls for the rest of the day. I sat in my office for a long time, looking out at the city I'd adopted as my own. Elena thought I'd become cruel, but she was wrong. I'd simply learned the lesson she'd taught me. Not everyone deserves your help, your sacrifice, your generosity. Some people will take everything you offer and still want more. That night, I called Jackson. Heard you met with Elena. Word travels fast. Small family. So what happened? She wanted money. I said no. Jackson was quiet for a moment. How do you feel about that? Honestly, free. I think part of me has been carrying her around for 10 years, wondering if I should have fought harder, tried more, been better. Seeing her today made me realize I dodged a bullet. The best thing she ever did for me was leave. That's a healthy perspective. Jackson, thanks for believing in me when nobody else did, including me. That's what brothers do. Now stop being sentimental and get back to being successful. Makes me look good by association. I laughed and hung up. Elena called 47 more times over the next week. I never answered. Eventually, the call stopped. About 6 months later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved to Arizona where her sister lived. Apparently, she'd found work at a retail store and was slowly rebuilding her life. I was glad. Not because I felt any obligation to her, but because I genuinely didn't want to see anyone suffer unnecessarily. But her problems weren't mine to solve. 2 years later, Cross Construction landed its biggest project yet, a $50 million mixed-use development in downtown Pittsburgh. The day we broke ground, I stood there with my crew, my team, the people who'd helped me build something real, and I thought about Elena's question. You're not going to say anything? Turns out I had plenty to say. I just said it with my work, my success, my life. And that was louder than anything I could have told her in that apartment 12 years ago. My name is Nathan Cross. I'm the founder and CEO of Cross Construction. I built a company worth over $20 million from nothing but determination and the freedom that came from hitting rock bottom. The best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building a life so full, so successful, so completely yours, that the people who tried to diminish you become irrelevant. Elena thought she was destroying me when she handed me those divorce papers. She thought she was moving on to bigger and better things. Instead, She set me free to become someone she never imagined possible. And that's a gift I'll always thank her for, even if she'll never understand why. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been underestimated or written off or left behind, remember this. Your value isn't determined by the people who couldn't see it. Build your own success, live your own truth, and let the doubters watch from the sidelines while you become exactly who you were always meant to be. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment below sharing your thoughts, and hit that like button. Until next time, remember that sometimes the best way to prove someone wrong is to prove yourself right.